Thank you so much for making it to this program, and thank you for traveling all the way to come here to listen to what I have to share with you. And to those of you watching online, I really want to say thank you so much for making time. And I'm very optimistic that the time we spend together here will be a very productive one. So pick up your jotters, your pens, and let's start rolling. So this is how I started my speech way back in Okyere some few days ago. I asked the participants what were their perceptions about the Ghanaian film industry, even before they started acting or joining the filmmaking fraternity. And for me, these were some of my perceptions, even before I got closer to the film industry. I knew there was money in the film industry. I knew there was money because I look at the actors and all the cast and the things they used, and if people are paying for this, then it means they are really getting a lot from filmmaking. And I knew the lifestyle producers lived, the big cars they showed, the kind of lifestyle they lived, and I knew there was money in the industry. And then again, I also knew there was juju in the industry. Wherever there is money, fame, power, there is that spirituality underground. I also knew about that. And I also had this perception that, directors and producers always have their way with the actors, because, come on, you are a director, you see all these beautiful girls on your set, you tell them to sleep, they sleep, you tell them to run, they run. Whatever the director tells them to do, they do. Then if a director invites them into their rooms, they will obviously obey. Yeah, these were some of the things I thought, or my perceptions about the film industry and the people in the filmmaking business. But then, hey, I got the chance to come into the film industry, and what I thought, what I perceived, or the ideas I preconceived about the industry didn't turn out to be what is the actual fact on the grounds. I stand to be corrected, but from my experience, this is how I see it. I count myself blessed because I'm one kind of director-producer who has encountered almost all the woods in Ghana. I've been in Kumawood, I've been in Gollywood, and now I'm making Christian films. I don't know what kind of wood you are going to call the Christian film ministry. Christywood, Christwood, whatever wood you want to call it. I have also experienced this, and I must say that it has given me a lot of experience and knowledge about filmmaking in Ghana, that whatever I'm going to share with you here is not what I've learned from any book or online, but my real life experience as a filmmaker coming across Kumawood, Gollywood, and then now making Christian films in Ghana. When we say ministry productions and industry productions, what are the differences? We really have to understand the differences between industry productions and ministry productions so that our approach or our way of making films will be guided as Christians seeking to transform society through filmmaking and the power of the Holy Spirit. So now let's start looking at the two differences: industry productions, ministry productions. How do we start? So every film project starts with a purpose. Nobody wakes up one day and pick up cameras and organize crew and say we are going to shoot a film. There must be a purpose for which a film is produced. So in industry, producers have a reason or a purpose for which they produce films. In the same way, in film ministry, producers have a purpose and a reason for making the films they make. Now let's look at the industry purposes. When I was making industry productions or industry movies, one of the main reasons why I made the movies was to make profit. Yes, I told you, even before I came into the industry, I knew there was a lot of money in the industry. So that was one reason why I made movies. I put in movies, I put in money, and I expected a return on my investment. So whatever money I was putting, whichever effort I was putting into productions, I was aiming at getting returns on them. And then also, in the industry, we made movies for fame. When you are on set and you have the behind the scenes, people coming around, you see a whole community surrounding the film set, and you become so powerful, you feel the popularity, you move around and people are talking about you. I remember there was a time in the industry when some people heard my name, they did not even know who I am. They heard my name and they thought I was a Nigerian. So some were like, oh, Emmanuel Blessing, the Nigerian producer, he's like this, he's like that, he's like this. And when you hear people talking about you, even when they do not know you, it kind of gives you some kind of relevance. You feel important in society. And these were some of the reasons why we were making movies back to back, so that we always became relevant in the industry, so our faces will not fade off, so our names will not die off. Every now and then people are talking about the producer, the director, Emmanuel Blessing. When they meet on a different set to make movies, they talk about you. When they are when they find themselves in at events, programs, ceremonies, they are talking about you. You always feel that kind of relevance on social media. People are buzzing you here and there. Yes, that is also one reason why we make movies in the industry. And we should also not forget that we made movies for the market, because we saw that there was an available market for films. Once you make the movie, people will buy. So that was also one reason or a purpose for which in the industry we made movies. But now we are making Christian movies. We are into Christian film ministry. What then becomes our purpose for making the movies we make now? The main reason why we make movies as Christian film ministry producers is not to make profit or to become famous, but really to make impact in society. That's why I always say that we are a people unleashed to transform society through film, gospel films, and the power of the Holy Spirit. Yes, so our principal reason for making the movies we make is to make impact in society. Then we also seek to bring transformation in the lives of the people around us and in society. We identify things that need to be changed. We identify people that need to be transformed, character and other things that really need to change around us. And so we make movies to bring that kind of transformation we desire to bring into society. And most importantly, we seek to glorify God with the kind of movies we make. That's why you watch most Christian movies and they end with testimonies. Not testimonies about the producer, the director, or the actors, but testimonies that glorify God. So now, even before we start making movies, looking at the purpose for which movies are made, the industry has its purposes, and then the ministry also has its own purposes. So if you are here listening to me as a Christian filmmaker and your purpose is not aligned with the purpose of the Christian film ministry, you are still looking for fame, you are here, you are looking for money, you are here, you are seeking to become relevant, that your name will travel across social media and TV stations will be interviewing you, you become that popular, then you really have to adjust your purposes for which you make your Christian films. I hope you are understanding me up to this point. All right, so let's make progress. And now, another key difference between ministry productions and industry productions is our stories. It's our stories. Now, how do industry come out with their stories? In the industry, we made stories about things that trended. We look at trending issues and we made movies about them. That's why in Kumawood, there was a time when there was a big tension between Prophet Obinim and then Prophet Ebenezer, Nation Prophet 1. When that tension was there, somebody made a movie titled Obinim Ebenezer in Kumawood. I don't know if you remember. Yes, that's how we made movies in the industry back then. We had Fulani Langard when Langard issues were here and there. We had many movies coming out of trending stories, trending issues in the news and all around. Atamochreman and all those movies were made from trending issues and selling stories. Yes, these were some of the things that guided the selection of stories to be produced in industry productions. And we should also not forget that the choice of stories for industry productions are influenced by market and audience demand. What kind of stories really sell? What kind of stories are being demanded for in the market? What are the kind of stories our audience, Ghanaians, really want to see or hear in a movie? Those were the things that guided the type of stories to be produced in industry productions. But what about ministry productions? In ministry productions, I do not even call my stories stories. I call them messages from God. So when it comes to stories, everybody has a story to tell through film. I have my personal stories to tell. You may also have your personal stories to share through film. Who is here that doesn't like, or who is here that wouldn't like it when your life story has been produced into a film? From your childhood, when you started going to school, growing up, and everything is captured in a movie titled nicely. It will make you feel good and proud. Yes. But when it comes to ministry productions, we do not look at stories that sell. We don't look at stories we want to tell, but we look at messages God wants us to put out there through our film ministry. So we do not produce stories, we produce godly messages. So now, this is the clear line between industry stories and ministry messages. In ministry, we produce stories or messages that saves. In industry, we produce stories that sells. What sells is what we produce in the industry. And then in ministry, we seek to produce messages that brings salvation, that brings divine transformation in the lives of the people who spend time to watch the movies. So now, if you are here and your stories are not geared towards salvation, but you are looking forward to produce stories that sells, Christian, then you are veering into industry productions. That's why people approach me and will be like, oh, director, I have stories I'm selling. I have stories to give to you to make movies. I don't buy stories. I don't even write my own stories. I pray for God's messages to turn into films. I was telling some people the other time, if God has not given me any message to turn into film, I sit back quietly, I go about my normal activities. At any time there is a message, or at any point that a message drops, I put it down and prepare it for production. Or I seek the face of God. God, what do you want me to tell your people through this film ministry? And that is what we turn into movies. We don't just buy stories. We don't invite stories from people. We don't tell our own stories or stories around us. We seek divine messages and turn them into movies. That is what Christian film ministry is about. I hope you are getting me. All right, let's move on. We are moving on, but now let's look at the motivation of the Christian filmmaker and the motivation of the industry filmmaker. Now, for the industry filmmaker, every movie you produce, every movie you direct, every movie you act in, every movie you take part in its production builds your career. So when you are involved in industry productions, every movie you make brings you money because you are either paid for being the director, the producer, the editor, whatever role you played in making the movie, you are paid for it. It brings you money. Again, it brings you recognition because you find your name in the end credits. Director, your name is there. Producer, your name is there. Cinematographer, your name is there. It gives you that recognition. People see that you are working in the industry. Also, it helps build your career. Every film production you take part in gives you that experience and exposure and expands you in the career you are building. It takes you to another level of your career building as a film industry practitioner. But now let's look at the Christian filmmaker. What is their motivation? As a Christian filmmaker, I do not see the productions giving me recognition, but rather it becomes a service and a burden. It becomes a service and a burden. Unlike the industry productions that places you up there, ministry productions will rather reduce you because it is a burdensome kind of service we render unto our Lord. It is difficult to make Christian films. I will come to that. And whereas industry film practitioners are seeking career advancement, to us it is a calling. It is a calling that most of us even find difficult obeying. It takes the strength of the Holy Spirit and the power of God to see us where we are now. I always say it, and I will keep saying that left for me alone, I wouldn't be making Christian films because to me, one, they were boring, they are not profitable, and what was the motivation for making them? But I was called and I had to heed to that call, irrespective of all the thoughts, ideologies, and the philosophies I had about Christian film productions or ministry. This is where I find myself now. Not because I wanted to stay recognized, not because I wanted to stay relevant, not because I wanted to make money, but just because I am obeying God's calling to use filmmaking to transform society and turn us around towards God. Whether I like it or not, whether it brings me money or not, I have to obey. So this is what makes ministry productions a burden. You may not like it, you may not enjoy it, but you have to do it. It becomes a service, and I mean a burdensome service, something that you do and you are not so much proud of, but for the sake of the call of God on your life, you stay in it. That is one difference between ministry productions and industry productions. So in the industry productions, when you are a producer, you are served, you are worshipped, you are revered, you become that powerful guy, you become that showrunner in the industry. Yes, that's the name we give to producers, showrunners. When you say we should go, we will go. When you say we should sit, we will sit. But in ministry productions, you are serving. So you don't put yourself up there, you always seek to put God rather up there. In ministry productions, God alone is the showrunner, not myself as a producer, not the director. We are servants of God who is the showrunner in the Christian film ministry. Whereas in the industry, I will say I am a professional building my name in the film industry. So now you see the difference. In ministry, I am a servant of God who sees film as a tool. In industry, I am a professional who is building and crafting a name for myself in the industry. All right, so we are still making progress. Now let's look at content values. Content values for film ministries and then content values for industry productions. When you look at ministry productions, our contents are guided by Bible principles, and our themes or our movies revolves around the theme of faith, love, holiness, hope, and righteousness. But in the industry, the contents are compromised values to win the hearts of audience. What are the things people want to see? What are the things people want to hear? So industry productions are made of violent actions. People want to see shootings, fight sequences, character, and all those ones. Gushia, that's what sells. So these are the kind of things that influence industry productions. In art, we have something we call sex appeal, or we say nudity sells. That's why we have some magazines. You look at the cover page, you see pictures of women exposing their bodies. You see some billboards or posters in town about parties, events, and you see pictures of women with their bodies exposed, almost nude. It cuts across art. It's a principle that says sex has an appeal. So when you are making movies, and it is true in the industry, there were times I was told kissing scenes sells. Adding sexual or intimate scenes in your movie helps the market. So you can see some of these things in my movies. Yes, my choice of production were influenced by the choice of the audience. The kind of things I put in my movies were influenced by what the audience wanted to see. But in ministry, you do not have that liberty. You always make sure your productions are guided by Bible principles that project the values of the kingdom of God, love, righteousness, living that selfless life, piety, and all those kind of principles that are taught in the Bible. These are the things that guide ministry productions. But in industry, we do what sells. We do what the market demands. Intimate scenes in movies, you see occultism being projected and magnified. You see nudity, you see violence, blood here, killings here, shootings here and there. In industry productions, in ministry, it's not like that. So we say in industry, movies entertain the mind, but in ministry, movies transforms the soul. So if you are making movie as a Christian filmmaker, make movies that saves the soul, that transforms the soul. Whereas in industry, filmmakers make movies that entertain the mind. That is not to say we are taking the entertainment aspect of film from Christian film ministry or productions. But then, in ministry, we see entertainment as a tool or a vehicle through which to project the message of the gospel. But in industry, entertainment is the ultimate goal. The main aim is to create entertainment. So whatever entertains the people is what is produced, mostly for industry productions. But in ministry, we only use entertainment as a vehicle or as a tool by which or through which we project the message of God. All right, let's still move on. And at this point, I know you are putting up your questions. There will be the question and answer session where I will be inviting all your questions and I will answer them on this program. But making progress or moving forward, we now look at funding for ministry productions and funding for industry productions. Pay attention because here we are talking about money. Now you want to make movies as a Christian filmmaker. How do you fund your movies? And how is it done in the industry productions? How do people get funding for their films in the industry? Now, in the industry, we look for investors who are or who become the executive producers, people with money that they can invest in the film project. Now, let me make this clear. We have the director, the producer, and the executive producer. Now, the producer stands in the middle of the three, or the two, the director and the executive producer. The executive producer may be a businessman sitting somewhere. All right, so let's say in Ghana, the executive producer can be someone like Despite. So if I'm a producer, I approach him and pitch a movie idea to him. Oh, okay, I have this story that will sell. You see the dynamics in the film industry. If we are able to produce this film with, let's say, 200,000 by the end of 3 or 5 months after production, I can guarantee you that you will get a profit of like 400,000 from the movie because we will premiere it here, we will premiere it here, we will take it to this place, we will take it to this place. That is the work of a producer. To convince somebody to invest in the film project, and that somebody investing is the executive producer. So now, the executive producer has given me the money. The money is in my pocket. Then I look for a director who can make the kind of movie I am promising the executive producer. At the end of the day, the producer goes to make accounts to the executive producer. You gave me this amount of money. I promised you this and this and that, and I am here to honor that promise. This is your money. These are your returns. And then the project is sealed. Then we move on. Now, let's look at the Christian filmmaker. How do you get funding for your productions? I'm going to say this from my personal experience, and I should be clear and honest with you that as a film ministry producer or director, I fund my own movies because God gave me the vision and I must carry it on. I must make the first sacrifice before I see other people coming in. So if you are aiming at making Christian film productions, then you should be prepared to support and fund your own productions. When I say I fund my own productions, there are things that I pay all right with money, cash goes into it, or from my pocket money. But for most of the things that happen behind the scenes, I do them by myself. I write, I direct, I edit, I handle the camera, I produce or design the soundtrack. What else? I take stills photography, I design my flyers. So for most of the things that people will spend money to do, I do them by myself. And so when I spend money, I spend on welfare, props, transportation, and some few things here and there. Yes, when you want to start a Christian film ministry, you must be prepared to make that sacrifice. I buy the lights I use for editing. I bought my own personal computer and my personal gadgets, and that is it for Christian film ministry. You must be prepared to sow that seed. In the industry, we seek sponsors. Again, you can also get money from the market. Some marketers can even give you some money to produce for them. Some marketers can give you some money to start the production. At the end of the day, they sell the film, they take their money and give you the rest. That's how funding is done mostly in the industry. But when we come to the Christian film ministry, we don't usually fall on sponsors. Why? Because we don't want to bring people in to sponsor us with money, and then they begin to have a say on the kind of messages we should be bringing out. God gives you a message to go to direction A. You approach Mr. B to give you money for the production, and Mr. B tells you that, oh, if you could go a little bit offbeat and past here, the movie would have been nice. Will you listen or not? That's why in Christian film ministry, we don't usually go after sponsors. We bear the cost of the production ourselves. But then but I should also say that God in his own time brings us ministry helpers. These are not sponsors who will give you money and influence the kind of messages or stories you put across, but kingdom helpers, ministry helpers who will just dash you money to support whatever you are doing with no strings attached, with no intentions behind, with no hidden intentions or any influence on your production. They just support. Just like people go to church and they give offering, people go to church and sow into the ministry of men of God. We can also be getting people to support us in that way without affecting the way we present the gospel through our films. Some of this support can also come from the church. For example, I fellowship with the Church of Pentecost PIWC, Mountain View. The church can say, okay, we have seen this talent, we have seen this ministry, which is growing within the church, and we want to support it. So the church can create a budget out of its yearly budget or whatever, and support this ministry. The church can decide to come up with a support plan. Every 3 months, we will give you this amount of money to put into the gospel. Because see, when you are in the film ministry, you are also doing the work of the church. The church uses the pulpit to preach. The church walks on the street to evangelize. And what we are doing when we make movies and we are able to reach about 2,000 people. Our recent movie, Emmanuel, has been watched by over 2,000 people. And if the church sees the kind of impact we are making and they channel some financial support into the ministry, we end up doing most of the work for the church. Where the church cannot reach, we can reach with movies. Yes, so some of this support can come from the church as well. So whilst the industry is looking for executive producers, investors, sponsors, and marketers supporting with funding, in ministry, we depend on donations, church support, individual support, and personal sacrifices. So these are the clear differences. And so if you are making a Christian film, or when you see a Christian film or a movie branded as a Christian movie, and it has an executive producer who is an investor seeking for financial returns, then you must watch the movie too, because it is industry production branded as a Christian film. It happens a lot. It happens a lot. Myself, I did some. I made movies that I felt were dealing with Christian themes, but behind the production, the whole idea was to stay relevant, popular, and also to make money, which doesn't make those movies Christian movies per my definition of a Christian movie and what we are learning here and now. I hope you are understanding me. The difference is in the expectations. In the industry, the investor is looking for returns on the investment. In the ministry, the investor, the filmmaker who is making the personal sacrifices, the church which is supporting, the people who are donating, are seeking spiritual fruits and blessings. People sow seed into the ministry not because of what they want you to do, but what they are seeking from God. People seek blessings from God. People want to see the fruits of the Spirit being propagated through your movies, and that becomes their expectations. So you see the difference between ministry and industry productions also comes in the form of expectations, what we expect at the end of the productions we make. Another important thing or difference we have to look at between Christian film ministry and industry productions is that when it comes to critical decision making, how do we do it? In the industry, or let me say, when I was in the industry, I spent a lot of time with film marketers. I really spent time at their stores and their offices. We would usually talk about what is happening in the film industry, what is happening in the market. I will be there observing the kind of movies people were producing and releasing and the kind of movies people walked in to buy, and we will be discussing the dynamics and all that. So I did not take any independent decision without consulting my marketer. Now I'm doing film as a ministry. Who do I consult? God is my marketer. So when it comes to any form of creative decision making, I consult God. When it comes to the kind of messages to churn out through films, it must come from God. And even the kind of people I bring around my production, I don't just call people. In the industry, we look at professionalism. Even the crew we use in our movies, we look for people who are professionals, a professional cinematographer, a professional actor, a professional makeup artist, a professional costumier, professional director. And when it comes to ministry, we look out for character, people with the godly kind of character. So in Nigeria, when I was there, when you are a cameraman in the film ministry, you are called an evangelist because they see you as a camera person or an evangelist evangelizing with the camera as your tool. If you are a director, they see you as an evangelist evangelizing through film. If you are an actor, they see you as an evangelist. That's why they have evangelist Mike Bamiloye. They have evangelist, this evangelist that they are not evangelists as we see in Ghana, moving from bus to bus, preaching on the streets, preaching here, preaching there, but they see them as people of God or people churning out God's message through their craft as filmmakers. Yes, so when you are making productions for the ministry, we don't only look for professionals. If you get a professional who is ready to evangelize through filmmaking, then you are blessed. But we don't always go for the professionals. We go for the people with the mind of God to use film as a tool to evangelize to the world. So again, in ministry, casting or choosing actors is based on character and commitment, the availability or the commitment of the actor to also make that personal sacrifice. Remember, I told you this is a calling, it is a burden. So you choose actors, crew, and people who are willing to bear the burden with you, the producer. But in industry, it is professionalism, it is business, it is transactional, it is money. You choose people that you pay and get value for whatever you are paying for. So you see the differences here. Professionalism in the industry, in ministry, character and commitment. Sometimes I say that the anointing doesn't clean our nonsense, but then also God can use anybody, shape the person, mold the person, and use the person for his own purposes. Yes, so I may not qualify as a film director, I may not qualify as a film producer, but God chooses me to use me to make films that gives glory to his name. That is what we look out for in film ministry. But in industry, we want people that are guaranteed to provide the professional services we look out for in a marketable film. And now, one more thing I really want to talk about is how the Christian filmmaker and the industry filmmaker define their audience. To the industry filmmaker, the audience is their customer. But as a Christian filmmaker, we don't see the audience as customers bringing us money, but we see them as souls. So whenever I am putting up a movie, I have in mind the souls which are going to watch the movie. Is the movie really going to save them? What impact is the movie going to make on those souls? But when I'm writing for industry or producing for industry, I remember I am writing or producing for a customer. What is the customer demand? What analysis do I have, or what background information do I have about the customer? What are the customer preferences? Which kind of movies do the customers want to watch? And that influences the kind of movies I make. So, once again, in the industry, the audience or the viewers are customers. But in ministry, the audience or viewers are souls that really matter to God. And now I'm bringing my presentation to an end. But let's not forget about the various forms of temptations ministry and industry filmmakers go through. The industry productions come with the fame and money trap. People become so desperate for the fame. People become so desperate for the money. And they go to every extent to get the money and the fame. That's why you get people coming on air to say that in the industry, people have to sleep with producers, directors to get roles. Why? Because they believe those roles will make them famous. People do all sort of things, consult juju here and there, spiritualism, just to get that fame and the money they want to get in the industry. These are some of the temptations that comes with industry productions. Ego, competition. This producer wants to come out as the best producer. This one wants to come out. This one wants to come out as the best director, best actress of the year, best actor of the year. There is always that competition, the urge to protect ego and all that in the industry. And there is also pressure to compromise on the kind of movies you want to make. When you are a producer or a director in the industry, sometimes you don't get to produce the kind of movies you even really want to make. But your choice or your decisions are influenced by people who are investing. You present the script, they look at it and they tell you, no, go and do it like this, go and add this, go and remove this. And at the end of the day, you ask yourself, is this my script or their script? These are some of the temptations people in the industry go through. It becomes so competitive that sometimes people have to resort to drugs to keep up the work and all that. But let's look at how ministry filmmakers also face their own temptations. In ministry productions, our number one challenge is spiritual attacks. Because what we are doing is against the devil, he will always come up strongly against it. We have been falling sick, we have been sustaining injuries, we have been going through trials and crises after setting up this film ministry, and it takes God to keep us moving as you see us moving. These are some of the temptations we go through in ministry productions, or these are some of the challenges you really have to expect when you want to come into Christian film ministry. You will face the challenge of discouragement. You will make movies, you invest time, money, sacrifices, come out with the movie, and you put it out there on YouTube, and for about a month, you have 56 views. Only 56 people have watched the movie, and they will not even comment. You will share the movie with friends, and they will not even watch. It becomes so much discouraging. Again, in the film ministry, you are most likely to see slow growth. You make a movie which has the same production value with another industry movie. You post your movies on YouTube at the same time, or you release your movies at the same time. Then the industry production begins to get plenty views. And your ministry production, nobody is watching. This becomes challenging. These are some of the temptations you are most likely to face. People are talking about industry productions. They are trending. And you are doing something for God that you feel Ghana being a Christian country will support. Nobody is even watching your direction. It's like you are walking in the dark. Nobody is seeing you. These are some of the challenges you are most likely to face when you are in the Christian film ministry. So at the end of it all, somebody will ask, if I am a Christian filmmaker, must I work in the industry or not? Christians must not reject the industry, because we are seeking to make impact everywhere, anywhere, anytime. So if the industry offers us the opportunity to show what is in us, we should not reject it. But then, in so doing, we should not lose focus on our calling as Christian filmmakers. If going into the industry will make us lose focus, will make us lose our salvation, will make us lose track of our calling, then it's better we stay grounded as Christian filmmakers. Thank you so much for making time to listen to me. Thank you for having me on this program. And I am most thankful and grateful for your audience.